All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have another powerful woman about to come to the stage. She's a Syrian Australian journalist, content creator, and scientist, also a Pfizer whistleblower. She reports on foreign conflicts, particularly in the Middle East, and she's opposing the rise of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the rise in the Middle East. And she writes for Russia Today, New Eastern Outlook, and Al Mayadeen. Her commentary has been featured on Sky News Australia and covered by the ABC News, giving her both national and international reach. Over on X, she has amassed over 500,000 followers, which is quite incredible. She's best known as Syrian Girl, but please give a huge welcome to Maram Susli. Where are you, Maram? You there? Make some noise, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up. Make her feel very welcome. Coming up, Syrian Girl.
This is my mic? Is it okay? Okay, so to go to the next slide, I'll just click. There's a clicker. Thank you. Hi guys, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. No, just joking. That's a meme. So I guess this is a free speech conference, and though I'm more well known for my coverage of the Middle East wars, whether they be in Syria or Palestine, I'm also very, very interested in free speech in this country. And so I'm pretty much going to be talking about how I feel that free speech is affected in this country, for as far as I can tell. And I think that the first thing I want to mention is that there's an elephant in the room, okay? And we're not really allowed to talk about this elephant. And I'm going to talk about the elephant in a way. So yes, they have these long trunks, they drink water, just joking. But the thing that we're not allowed to talk about is, that the free speech doesn't really exist in Australia. We don't really have free speech. And it's important, I think, to mention, as did Adrian McRae yesterday, David McBride, who's currently in prison now for doing the right thing. That's what he's in prison for. And just last month, he tried to appeal his sentence, which is 6 years, and he was shut down. So we need to do something about this if we want free speech in Australia. Just for the camera. Okay. Okay. A step forward? Okay. I can. Oh, yes, I can see the thing. I see the thing, but it does. Yes, I see it. Okay, sorry, guys. Technical difficulties. Okay, so the next incident of free speech I think is suppressed in this country is journalist Mary Kostakidis, which is a veteran journalist, and she's had, because of 2 tweets, she's been charged with anti-Semitism simply for talking about the genocide that's being committed by Israel in Gaza. And she's currently in court trying to challenge this. Another example is we have a journalist called Antoinette Latouf. Now, I don't know if you guys know about this incident, but the Israeli flag was projected onto the Sydney Opera House by Christopher Minns, which is the Premier of New South Wales. And this caused, against the advice of the New South Wales Police. And this caused a protest outside of the Sydney Opera House with the counter, the Palestinian protests. But there was a lie that was made up about these protesters that came from the Australian Jewish Association, that they used anti-Semitic slurs during the protest. But journalists exposed the fact that this was a big manufactured lie, and that the video was actually manipulated, and the police confirmed that there was no such language used at the protest. But the journalist that exposed this, Antoinette Latouf, she was kicked out of the ABC, and it turns out that there was a secret WhatsApp message group created by, I think the organization is called Lawyers for Israel, that was pushing for her to be fired from the ABC. Now, she has since won her case in court for wrongful dismissal, winning, like the government, it's the ABC, so it's taxpayer funded. So they spent thousands upon thousands of dollars trying to shut this woman down for exposing this thing. And they lost. So that money's coming out of the taxpayers. But what's interesting is that group that was exposed, that was pushing for her dismissal, that created this whole mess, they accused people of doxing them. And that's why we now have the anti-doxing laws. And it's not clicking. Wait, how do I? Maybe I'll just, there, ooh. Okay, so that's why we have the anti-doxing laws and the e-safety commissioner. It's because of this WhatsApp group, guys. So, I will tell you that this e-safety commissioner is not going to help you as a private citizen if you've been doxed. Okay, I can tell you from personal experience. And so it's clearly like a position to help people powerful people to protect their identity. And it's her key recommendation from the Special Envoy's plan. So she is actually now working with the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism to control speech on social media platforms. So this is a kind of goes into this next thing I want to talk about, which is the anti-Semitism envoy. So I would like to play you guys a video. I don't know if this is going to work, but this is a 1-minute video about what this anti-Semitism envoy is going to suggest to the government and what they're pushing for, okay? I'm not sure if it's making any noise. Okay, well, I believe that it is not going to make any noise. So I'm just going to have to talk about it. So essentially, the anti-Semitism envoy has been pushing for the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. Oh, are you guys going to get it to work? All right, cool. So if not, then I'll just talk. So what is anti-Semitism, though, according to this envoy? Okay, what is it? Is it just, saying nasty things? The video now seems to be not playing either. Or is it? Yeah, it's freezing up. I would have liked to see some of the slides on there to show you that, here we go, some of them. So essentially, according to them, it's anti-Semitic to claim things like this. And I'm not even going to say it out loud, just in case someone has a problem with me, but saying that there's any Jewish control over the media or government institutions is considered anti-Semitic. Also, the claim that Israel is a racist endeavor is anti-Semitic. Anything about the Holocaust or accusing Jews of being more loyal to Israel than Australia, and anything about Jesus. Lots of things. Also comparing Israel to the Nazis is now anti-Semitic. Lots of things that you wouldn't normally or automatically think are anti-Semitic. So I believe, how do I get to the next slide? Okay, here we go. So mandating the IHR definition across society. So now the anti-Semitism envoy is, as I said, demanding that the IHRA definition be imposed on society. And she wants the government to penalize universities that don't implement the IHRA definition. And that means to extract funding away from universities. Also, they want to strengthen hate speech laws, vilification laws, track, monitor platforms, and restrict anonymity. They want to target migration and visa applications. We had 3 visa applications denied to us for this conference. But the point is that these things are already happening. Like, these rules are already being followed by our government. And I say that in quotes. But they want to formalize it, okay? That's the whole idea is they want to make it such that it can't be fought back against in court. So the universities, many universities, half of them have now already adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism and are doing increasingly so. But even before this adoption, which was this year, there was already incidences where the professors were censored based on speech about Israel. So Australia, the Sydney University of Australia actually sacked Professor Tim Anderson for comparing Israel to Nazi Germany. And this was before the IHRA definition. He's a political economist. And the union of the university fought for his academic freedom, and a lot of money was spent, of course, again, taxpayers' money. And in the end, he lost his case, but that was even before the IHRA definition. Another university professor, Professor Sujatha Fernandez, questioned the official narrative about October 7th and questioned the claim that there was any mass rapes there, which, according to the United Nations and all evidence, there's not been any. And according to the fact that there's no victims and there's no official statement by Israel about any mass rapes, she has the facts on her side, but she's not allowed to state the facts anymore. And so she was basically disciplined. And the only reason she avoided being fired is because she apologized and promised never to do it again. So this is academic freedom. When it comes to politics now, we can't even talk about the facts. Another interesting thing is that, I don't know if you guys have heard about this story where an Australian Defence Force officer was recently stripped of his security clearance because he was interviewed by ASIO and they asked him if he would share classified information with Israel. And he said, yeah, he would if they asked. And, according to the IHRA definition, ASIO would be anti-Semitic because they would be questioning the dual loyalty of a Jewish man to Israel and Australia. So, it'll be that such an individual as him would be beyond reproach under the new IHRA definition. And if you want to talk about another incident where ASIO was anti-Semitic, it's when they complained about the fact that Israel was stealing Australian passports and using them to assassinate people. So I don't know if you guys know about this incident, but this was a few years back, like at least 10 years ago. It was found out that Israel was, on multiple occasions, stealing Australian passports, pretending to be Australian, traveling overseas, and killing people as Australians. Obviously, this is dangerous to Australians because it kind of tarnishes the reputation of our citizenship, of our passport, and makes it dangerous for us to travel. So obviously, the government was against this. And Kevin Rudd was the prime minister at the time. So he went to the United Nations and he complained about it formally. And as a result, he got reprimanded by this gentleman, Mark Liebler, if you guys are familiar with him. He said, I sat there politely as Mark Liebler berated me for having committed such a hostile act of complaining about this to the United Nations. When he informed Liebler that this is the Mossad being the intelligence agency of Israel, second offense, he got tapped over the knuckles to never do it. Like the first time Israel did this to Australia, Australia told them, just don't do it again, we won't do anything against you. But this was the second time, so he had to make a comment at the United Nations about it. So at that point, Liebler leaned over to him and said that, this is, what his exact words were, sorry, I'm going to read his exact words. Julia Gillard is looking very good in the public eyes these days, Prime Minister. She's performing very strongly. She's a great friend of Israel. But you shouldn't be anxious about her, should you, Prime Minister? And of course, Rudd was deposed by Julia Gillard in a coup. So was it a coincidence? I'll leave you to decide. And it was actually literally like 3 weeks later. So if this guy is so powerful that he can just switch up our prime ministers, if we dare to complain about passports being used, you have to really question why that is. And if this is an actual ally. Because I'm always told that Israel is an ally of Australia, but I actually wonder, what have they ever done for us? So, in fact, many of our politicians have been, questioning this. As I said, one of the things that Kevin Rudd said after this incident was, Mark Liebler berated me for having committed such a hostile act, and thus opined that for Liebler to attack the democratically elected PM of this country, as he sought to argue for the interests of another country, is beyond the pale. Now, to accuse Mark Liebler of putting the interests of another country above this one would be anti-Semitic under the new IHRA definition, right? That was what Kevin Rudd was saying. Also, Bob Carr had a similar experience. He said, in my experience as premier and foreign minister, I confirm that the pro-Israel lobby exceeds the power marshaled by any other diaspora community. Then you have Mark Latham, which was the former leader of the opposition and the head of One Nation. He said the premier has gotten himself way too close to the Jewish lobby, and he's made many other statements about the Jewish lobby and its power in Australia. And I'm just quoting them in case anyone wants to get me in trouble. Like, these are Australian politicians saying these things, so I'm just quoting them. So this former Prime Minister Golf Whitlam also said that he was blackmailed by what was it? He said, the heroes in the Australian Jewish community that support Israel. So, is a Prime Minister claiming to be blackmailed? I think that is of interest to everybody. So who is Mark Liebler? One thing you might know that he was responsible for The Voice. If you guys remember The Voice of Australia, he wrote that legislation, and he was the one trying to push it through. But he's also responsible for Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act, otherwise known as the hate speech laws. And the Act of 18C says that offensive behavior because of race, color, or nation or ethnic origin, the act is reasonably likely in all circumstances to offend, insult, humiliate, or intimidate another person or a group of people. So it became illegal to offend people under this guy's rules. But in fact, the hate crimes amendment legislation actually is being increased in severity this year, in February. So, in January, my bad. In January, new laws were introduced to make it a criminal offense to display a Nazi symbol or perform the Nazi salute or display the symbols of a prescribed terrorist organization. Mandatory sentencing, 1 year, maximum 5 years. Now, you might think that this is, it's Nazis, it's like maybe reasonable, but if you consider the fact that already the people that have been, slapped by this law are people who have World War II, paraphernalia, I guess you might call it, or, World War II medals, maybe they're interested in history. They have been brought down by these laws just for showing that. Also, people who have displayed the symbol of the swastika in context of criticizing someone's political views have been hit by these laws. Also, someone who recently displayed Australian politicians as an insult to them, dressed up as Nazis, they've also been attacked by these laws. So clearly, political discourse is now being suppressed based on these laws. Not to mention that there was someone who was sent to jail for 1 year. I think I forget his name. I'm sorry, but for moving his hand in a specific way at a 45-degree angle. So hand movements are now also illegal. But where did these laws? How are these laws pushed through? They were pushed through by Christopher Minns, who was the Premier of New South Wales, based on an incident that turned out to be a complete fabrication. So you should look at this up. I don't think I have the time to talk about it in depth here, but there was a dual caravan hoax. So in Dural, there was a caravan that was supposed to be full of explosives that had a list of synagogues that they were going to blow up. And based on this incident, they pushed through these laws. But it turns out that the caravan and the whole plot was a complete fabrication. The police confirmed this. And yet the laws were still maintained. Now, I had another slide on here, but unfortunately, it was a last-minute slide. But I just want to say that, with all of this said and done, clearly there is one foreign entity or foreign state that has a lot of influence in this country and has a lot of say in what we say, and that country happens to be committing a genocide in Gaza. But it's not just that it's committing a genocide in Gaza. I'm from Syria originally, and they have been, and the last slide would have showed evidence of this, but they have been for the last 14 years backing al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria by giving them weapons. They've admitted to giving 12 of the group's weapons. They've been giving them medical aid. And Netanyahu himself has taken credit for bringing down the Syrian state and putting in the new regime under Jolani or Ahmed al-Shara, who was the founder of al-Qaeda in Syria. So now the minorities of Syria, including Christians and Alawites and others, are being attacked. And there's also now everybody's fighting each other. Druze and Bedouins are being killed. And all of this, Israel now has flipped the script. And instead of supporting the terrorists, they're pretending to care about minorities. And it's a complete crock, but they're bombing Syria and taking over our land. But what does this have to do with Australia? What it has to do with Australia is, how is it in Australia's interests for Israel to promote al-Qaeda and ISIS overseas? It's not. So again, I have to ask, why is it our ally at all? So that is something that is dangerous for me to say in this country, and it is the elephant in the room. So I thank you all for listening. I'm sorry if it's spicy. I'm sure not everybody agrees with me here today, and some of our speakers certainly don't, but this is about free speech and giving each other what we believe in our ideas. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. And finally, I have, to be honest with you, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I have been suppressed and censored, and my personal life has been affected already just by stating the facts. So I was almost a bit too nervous to say any of this today because it might affect me further. But, I think everything I've said thus far is factually provable. And I am at the mercy of being the sacrifice for free speech. So thank you so much. That's it.